helping people cope with and overcome life's challenges. This is Life Transformations with Michael Hart, certified Christian counselor and director of Ottawa's Elim Counselling Services.
Hi, I'm Michael Hart, president of Elim Counselling Service, and I want to thank you for listening to this edition of Life Transformation, a Christian counseling radio show where chains are broken and the lives are transformed. If you're not familiar with Elim Counselling Service, Elim is a Christian counseling organization in Ottawa, Ontario that provides professional counseling for a wide range of issues. Today, as my guest, I have on the line Milton Hart, a member of the 1992 Jamaican Bobsled team. And in case you might be wondering the similarities in the name, his name is Milton Hart and my name is Michael Hart. We're brothers, and yes, so I do have some celebrity connection in that. My brother is a member of the bobsled team for Jamaica. Welcome, Milton. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Michael. You have a wonderful show, and I'm happy to be on it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, it's my pleasure. And I'm sure that the listeners are just anxious to hear what you have to say. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about what role you played on the bobsled team for Jamaica?
Okay, well, if I can preface the whole thing by talking about how the team actually started. It was started by two Americans who were savvy to the idea that Jamaica was and is gifted with talented sprinters. So they thought with bobsled having as a component a 25-meter run that we would have a wonderful bobsled team. So they had the tryouts by lobbying the Jamaican government to have them hosting a tryout in Kingston, Jamaica. I went there. I was successful. I was a brakeman. Now, the brakeman is the guy or guys you see running behind the sled, and they are usually faster than the guy up front, who is the driver. But I did learn how to drive in Calgary, so I would consider myself an all-rounder where bobsled is concerned.
Okay, great. So the idea was birthed in the States, and they came to Jamaica, as you said, but there are hundreds of very fast sprinters in Jamaica and very strong people. Like, what qualified you to be a member of that team, Milton?
I thought it was, I still think, and at the risk of sounding immodest, let me just say that I was a very fast sprinter. I was the Army champion at the time. I was one of the fastest in the country at the time. I wasn't very strong. I was just fast. Strength, of course, is a component of bobsled because you have to be pretty strong in order to push that sled. But I think that my speed compensated, or my incredible speed, if you will, compensated for my lack of strength. So what qualified me? I was just a fast 20-odd-year-old person at the time. I attended the trials. I did very well in certain components, a few components or facets of the tryouts. We were tested on how fast we could run 30 meters, how fast we could run 60 meters, how fast we could run 300 meters, how much we could bench press or vertical jumps, horizontal jumps. Didn't do so well in the bench press, of course, because you had some really powerful guys there. But based on how well I scored in the sprints, I ended up being the top candidate. Next thing I knew, the following week I was in Innsbruck, Austria, learning how to drive the bobsled. And I think the rest is history.
Okay, I know you're trying very hard to sound modest, but I think you should tell the listeners that I was faster than you growing up, that I could beat you in the sprint, right?
That needs to be said, of course. Yes, I was second to you, yes.
So I just missed out on my chance of being a member of the bobsled team because I didn't get that opportunity. But anyway, in high school, Milton, you weren't necessarily one of the fastest, most athletic kid. Can you talk a little bit about your high school years as an athlete?
As a matter of fact, those were painful years. I could not make any of the St. George's College, being the name of my high school, my former high school, any of their teams. Even though I wanted to run, I wasn't physically able, but I didn't have the strength. I didn't have what it took. Also, it seemed to me, I would try out for the school team. I was told I wasn't good enough. I would try out for the house team, still wasn't good enough. But something in me said I could do this. Something in me wanted to do it. Something in me said there has to be a way. I saw my classmates doing it, and I thought there has to be a way to do this. I was told by one of the coaches, and by the way, I think in the history of mankind, I'm pretty much the first prospective athlete to be asked to leave a team by my own teammates, because they basically said, there's no way you can make this team running like that. And they basically asked me to leave at one point. So I thought that I should just train, keep doing it, because there was something in me that said, you know what, I can do this. So I would train when nobody was looking. And I think my breakthrough came when I joined the Jamaica Defense Force, being the military. I got the requisite strength. I think running up those hills on a daily basis strengthened my legs. But because I had the idea, or I had the willingness and the urge, and perhaps, if you will, the desire to do it, I didn't mind training. I didn't mind trying out for the various teams, and before I knew it, I was one of the fastest in Jamaica. I think that came about because of my preparation, and once opportunity met up with that kind of preparation, wherein I was training every day for something that was out of the realm of possibility, where some people were concerned. Once opportunities presented itself, like, do you want to try out for the battalion's track team? Do you want to try out for the Army's track team? I started making teams. At one point I made the Jamaican Sprint 200-meter team. Then I made the Jamaican Bobsled team. Sorry?
That's quite remarkable, coming from someone who wasn't that fast in high school to raise to that heights where you're now making the national team and making the Army team. It's quite a remarkable story of overcoming adversities.
And I think the takeaway, I appreciate that. I think the takeaway from it is that where there's a will, there's a way. Through God, you can do all things. I just felt that, being a Christian, and I must hasten to say that at that point I had began to read the Bible, and I had accepted Christ as my personal Savior, and I embraced the idea that I could do all things, that I still can do all things through Christ. So I certainly think that my mind was made up, if you will, to actually do this. And I thought, I'm going to find some people who knew about track and field. I'm going to do the training, and because I had this spiritual connection that said I can do all things and I should not be defeated, I think everything came together.
So your Christian faith was a big part of your resilience in overcoming the challenges and pressing forward.
Absolutely, because when you read about what some of these great men and women of God actually went through, it spoke to the idea of perseverance. It spoke to the idea of never giving up. It spoke to the idea of when times look dim and dark and dull, you should press along. And I wasn't going to let people talk about the fact that I never ran for high school. I never ran at champs, and that's what we call the high school championships. The fact that I never made a house team deter me from what I wanted to do.
Just for your listeners, what we mean by house team is that in Jamaica, within each school, the children are grouped into groups and given a name. So they have different. Let us say a school of 200 would be divided up in groups of 50, and each group of 50 would be given a name, and each group would compete against the other groups to see what group was the champion. So Milton is saying that in his high school years he wasn't even good enough to make one of those teams for his high school. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Michael Hart on Life Transformations radio broadcast, and with me is Milton Hart, a past member of the Jamaican Bobsled team. And Milton is sharing with me his remarkable story of overcoming adversity and his journey that took him to the Olympics with the Jamaica Bobsled team. So Milton, you talked a little bit about your Christian faith and about your belief in the scriptures that tells you that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. What other role does your Christian faith play in your success in life so far?
Well, Michael, faith is a substance of things hoped for, and it certainly is the evidence of things that you cannot see. I was hoping to run fast, and where many of my classmates were concerned, that was just wishful thinking. I still think that my faith was the evidence that I would be on an Olympic podium at some point. It was the evidence that, you know what, I'm going to make this Jamaican team, but I couldn't tell many people because they would have none of it.
But you believed it in your heart,
of course,
that you would be there. So take me to that moment, Milton. That moment when all your hard work has paid off, and you realize, wow, I am now in Canada. I am on this world-renowned bobsled team, because it was the talk of people all over the world that Jamaica, a country that has no snow, a tropical country, now has a team in a Winter Olympic sports. And so take me to that moment when you're there, Milton, and you realize this is it. I am now standing at the starting line, and I am about to enter into this competition. Take me to that moment. What was that like for you?
The moment was joyous, yes, but it was also a bit stressful because you're there, you're carrying a certain burden with you, you're carrying your country's flag, your country's name, you're carrying the reputation of the bobsled team with you, and you're thinking of competing and qualifying. Let me preface all of this to say that I joined the team in 1989, and for us to enter the 1992 Olympics, we had to go on the European circuit to prove that we were worthy of qualifying for the 1992 Olympics. How it works is you have to be seen as a serious competitor. You have to be seen as worthy. We had to amass a certain amount of points by beating good teams on the European circuit, the Swiss, the Germans, the Austrians. We had to compete with all of those teams. So it was a lot of hard work, and I kept getting the feeling that, you know what, the work is not done. There's still work to be done. I made the team, but I'm thinking there is work to be done. I was thinking that.
Yes.
After trying to qualify for the Olympics, there was a lot of work. Being in the Olympic Village, the idea was we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
But I wish I had taken more moments just to breathe and to understand, perhaps to live in the moment that I am here. Because many times we ask God for things and it's given to us, and we don't take the time to be thankful for it. We're still worried. Sometimes you just have to be still and know that God is God. Know that
absolutely
what we have is what we have always asked for, and that God is faithful to give it to us. But sometimes we're kind of caught up in this hustle and bustle world of always trying to get ahead. I think a regret I have is that I didn't enjoy that moment more than I did. I think I was a little bit too uptight in the moment. I should have breathed a little bit more. As in, what I meant by that is just be more appreciative of where I was.
Of the fact that you're there, and that God has brought you, your dream of being there has not been fulfilled. Just enjoy that moment.
Enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to use my own power, my own abilities to go further. I guess I was a little bit too worried, a little bit too uptight. And I think the takeaway.
What were you worried about, Milton? What sort of things was going through your mind at the time when you said a little bit too worried? Like, what was the
worried about
concerns?
running faster, worried about being number one, worried about what's going to happen on this run, what's going to happen on that run. But the takeaway, when I say run, the journey that the bobsled makes from top to bottom, it can be dreadful at times. Let me just say that the takeaway from that is, for me, where I am right now, is that I'm very appreciative of where God has taken me from.
Yes.
I know from where I'm coming. I'm very appreciative of where I am right now, because where I am, the things I have right now are the things that I've been asking God for back in the day. So I'm very appreciative,
so
and
you're thankful for the things that you have at present, instead of always yearning for something more and not being in the moment and saying, God, I'm pressing towards this, but I'm going to enjoy the moment of what you have blessed me with right now. I wanted to ask you a little bit, Milton, about adversities, because there was a time in your race, one of the races, I think, where the bobsled overturned. And take me through that. Like, what was that like for you, someone who is not used to being on ice, to suddenly be going down this steep hill and to be overturned like that? Take me through that.
First of all, it was very harrowing. It was a very dreadful, maybe even cataclysmic kind of crash. That was just one of the many. In order to learn the sport, you invariably will be on your head a few times. I have scars to show. I have damaged helmets. I have ice burns on my shoulder to prove that, yes, I was, I am a former member of a bobsled team. To me, it was the price you pay to learn. I embraced the accidents, as in, not to sound overly sentimental about the whole thing, but I kind of felt that, I want to learn this thing, so I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush myself off, I'm not going to ask to be taken back to Kingston, Jamaica.
So like, the temptation to say, take me back to the sandy beaches of Jamaica did cross your mind, but you persevered despite the accident. That leads me to another question I wanted to ask you, Milton, is, as an athlete, how do you view failures? Because as we know, as an athlete, there's going to be numerous times when you train hard for a race and you don't get the results that you need, or you prepare and you get injured before the day to compete. How do you view failure as an athlete?
I've lost a lot of races, but I do think that I've won a lot because I've lost many. Because I see failure as a lesson. We do learn more, or we should learn more from our failures than we do of our successes, or from our successes. If we can learn from failure, if we can view failure as an experience that we must go through, as this dark room that we must pass through in order to see the light, if we can view it as the valley that we must pass through in order to get to the mountaintop, then we can see it as a stepping stone and not an obstacle. I've lost many. Michael Jordan said something very, very profound. Michael Jordan, the great basketball player, at the end of the game, he wants the ball in his hand. When the game is on the line, he wants to be given the ball, and he'll take that last shot. He has missed a lot, but he has also said, if you don't take it, you will fail 100% of the time. You need to take those shots. You need to take those risks. You need to lose. And what he also said is that because he has hit so many big game shots, nobody remembers the ones he missed.
The ones he missed,
Because the successes overshadow the failures. Not too many people remember the races I've lost. They remember me being the Ontario champion for universities in 1996. They remember me being on the bobsled team. They remember a lot of things. They remember me being the Jamaica Defence Force champion. But a lot of people, unless I remind them, cannot remember all the races I've lost.
And I think what you have said, Milton, is very, very profound, because as a psychotherapist, one of the one of the patterns of thinking that leads to depression is what we call selective abstraction, where a person becomes focused on the negative and forget about the positive. So had you focused on those races that you lost, or focused on your high school days when you weren't very good in sport, then you could have become a depressed person. But you chose to learn from your mistakes and to focus on the positive and keep moving forward, and as a result you're remembered now for your success, not for your failures.
Correct.
If you have just joined us, you're listening to Michael Hart on the Life Transformations radio broadcast, and our guest today is Milton Hart, a member of the Jamaican Bobsled team in 1992 that went to the Olympics. And Milton is sharing his remarkable story for us of how faith has been a part of his journey and how he has overcome adversities as a result of his faith. If I were to ask you, Milton, if you were to, talk a little bit about life lessons, what kind of life lessons can we learn from sports?
Some of the most prominent lessons we can learn from sports are the following. Be thankful for the successes, of course, but learn from the failures. Also, do not be bashful about taking on challenges, because it's the challenges that make us strong. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, is what I often say. Yes. If your preparation, if my training doesn't challenge me, it will not change me. If in practicing I am comfortable, if I don't feel like crying after some training sessions,
right,
I'm not being challenged, hence I'm not being changed.
So you have to push yourself.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Life can be a challenge. When we get those challenges, we should be thankful for them because they will change us. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people change in a negative kind of way. Some people turn to drugs as an outlet, as an escape from life's challenges.
Yes.
Some people turn to alcohol. Some people give up. Some people become very suicidal. The idea is that if you ride it out, if you stay the course, if you keep the faith, if you fight the good fight, then the challenge is going to change us to the positive. So I've learned from sports, I've lived the life where no coach can break me. And I've joined some team before where the coach tries to see who will be the first to leave, because you know what, on a team that is supposed to have 10 people, if 50 people show up, they're trying to get rid of 40.
Yes.
Just by making the practice as difficult as it can possibly be.
So you have to persevere and push through.
That's absolutely right. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
Okay, if there's someone listening to us today, Milton, who may be having difficulty envisioning themselves in something outside their comfort zone, something that God might be calling them to, but because of fear, they are just not able to move forward and to take on that big challenge, what would you say to them?
I would say keep pushing through, because when we get right down to it, we understand that God is bigger than all of our circumstances. And if God is calling you to do big things, God is bigger than what He's calling you to do. And if you are plugged in, if you will, to Him, if you are plugged into His Word, then you should put yourself in a situation where your faith should dwarf whatever challenge it is. I think I was at a situation where the faith I had made what I was going after pale in comparison to who I know God is. Because if God is omnipotent and almighty, we can come to that point where we can say our situations or circumstances are pretty soft. So I'm not trying to trivialize anything that anybody is going through, but if we are plugged in to what we call our source as Christians, then we shouldn't be daunted by any obstacle.
Our belief in Almighty God should triumph over the fear that we have of the big challenge.
Absolutely.
That's a very good response, Milton. Milton, tell us a little bit about your life today. We know that the 92 bobsled team was a long time ago, and a lot of time has passed. Tell us about where you are today.
I think, with all humility, that I'm still fighting the good fight. I'm also in a situation, I was in a situation where in the history of mankind, I believe I was the most terrible high school student you will ever come across. So to have a master's degree at this point kind of says to me that riding out the storm and being plugged in to your source can help you to overcome any obstacle. When I thought about being in university, from the shambles of what was high school, it seemed very daunting.
Mm-hmm. Because as I remember, you struggled academically in high school, Milton.
Tremendously.
Yes.
Tremendously. But the idea was, there was something in me that said, I can do this, and through God I can do it. And I did not give up. But I tried to plug myself into the source, which is God. I tried to and here's another thing I've learned in life, find people who have done it before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you want to get into banking, find somebody who has done banking. If you want to get into the military, yes. Exactly, find somebody with that experience. Find out get some information. So I got a lot of information about university. Next thing I knew, I got a Bachelor of Arts in English and Communications. Then I attained a Master's in Environmental Studies. Then I went back to get a Bachelor of Education. Hence, I'm teaching in high school at this point. I'm doing a lot. I'm also a college professor. I teach English. Mm-hmm. When my former classmates hear about this,
they must be shocked because they don't know you are someone that has those academic abilities.
Some of them are in denial, and some of them want to know what happened to Milton Hart because this can't be him.
Yes. So Milton, I hate to do this, but we have come to the end of today's broadcast. Time has gone, but I think your story of resilience and overcoming challenges, academic challenges, athletic challenges, and making it all the way to the Olympics with the Jamaican Bobsled team, I think it's a remarkable story of how we through Christ can overcome challenges and adversities in our life. Thank you very much for joining us, Milton, and maybe we'll do this again sometime soon.
Michael, thank you very much for the wonderful work you're doing, and thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Take care.
You have been listening to Life Transformations with Michael Hart, Director of Elim Counselling Services, and my guest today was Milton Hart, a member of the Jamaican Bobsled, past member of the Jamaican Bobsled team. If you have a question or a concern, or you're in need of counseling, you can reach us at 613-699-1677. Thank you for listening to this edition of Life Transformations. This is Michael Hart, President of Elim Counselling Services. And until next time, I pray that God would bless you in all your relationships and keep you sound in mind and pure in heart. God bless you.